Italian campaign in Abyssinia. Italy needs the ground for expansion. She does not look for any adventurer, and certainly she does not want any war with the rest of the world. And I tell you that there is no wish in our country to see such a terrible thing come over again in Europe.
ከሌላው ሀገር ልዩነት ልዩ የሚያደርገን በእውነቱ ይሄ የአርበኝነት ስራ
What makes us different is our patriotism. But it came out most strongly when we had to struggle and fight in terms for our freedom. There was absolutely no one to come to our help. And it was at that time we vowed to each other that we'd fight to the end. If it was humanly possible, the last one of us would rather kill himself than be taken prisoner.
Without warning, on October 3rd, 1935, the Italians bombed Adwa and their infantry crossed the border.
Eritrean troops led the advance, and these are the first pictures to reach England, showing the invading forces entering the city.
They reached Aksum in a few weeks, their troops supported by aerial bombardment. But to Mussolini, the advance was not fast enough. He ordered the army to press on immediately towards Addis Ababa.
What always surprised me about our fighters was their courage and defiance, even when the Italians were using all sorts of sophisticated and modern weapons. They attacked us with poison gas and with bombs dropped from aeroplanes, but nobody's moral weakened. We all stood firm. They sprayed us with bullets. I saw some patriots who didn't know about the tanks. They'd never seen tanks before. They used to chase after them and try to attack the tanks with rocks and swords in their hands. Can you imagine? With rocks? I have seen it many times and I will never forget it.
ከጠላት መወረሩ በፊት የተዘጋጀው ወታደር የሰለጠንኩ ወታደር ነበርኩ ስልጣኔም
Before the invasion we were ready. I was trained as an officer in the regular army. I had heard about the atrocities committed by the colonizers in neighboring countries, Kenya and Somalia, so we know what it would be like, and we were quite prepared for the invasion with anger and determination boiling up inside.
March and countermarch, with spears, bows and arrows, antiquated rifles, muskets and shotguns. These pathetic weapons against a conqueror who had taken the sword to become, as he had claimed, Islam's protector. But Il Duce's protection meant for Ethiopia the onslaught of tanks, guns and bombing planes. And against such force, spears and courage were not enough.
At that time, we didn't have that much in the way of weapons. Our guns were really old and took only one bullet at a time. Then they would have to throw out the cartridge and put in another one. That was completely useless. What was useful were the weapons we captured from the enemy. That's really how we were able to get stronger.
Italy has won the biggest victory of the Abyssinian War. These pictures, just released by Marshal Badoglio's stringent censorship, show the invading forces moving up. 75,000 infantry, supported by tanks, made an encircling movement against Aradam. From that fortified mountain scroll, the Abyssinians threatened to recapture Mekelle. Planes flew at 15,000 feet over the tracklet. Spotting Ras Mulugeta's battalions, the planes radioed to headquarters. The advance began. Italy has claimed 5,000 fields. Whatever the truth, the threat to Macaulay was averted, and the Amber Aradam mountain captured by the Italians.
The army that I was in defended and fought for more than a year and a half in the south. But eventually, enemy forces came in through the eastern part of the country, and they managed to reach Addis Ababa. From Addis, they took off in planes and bombarded our bases, which was at Yirgalem in Sidamo province.
The Italians advanced on both fronts through March and April, using poison gas sprayed from aeroplanes. The Ethiopian armies were forced to retreat.
Ras Seyum's army was destroyed in Tigray. Prisoners were herded into camps. Irreplaceable weapons were lost. Without modern arms, the Ethiopians' courage was tragically futile.
Actually, we were defending pretty strongly, but they sent out reinforcements which caught us at the back while we were fighting at the front. So we were finished. Our army was defeated. After that, most of our generals were captured and shot dead. That include my father, Fitorari Garamu, and other generals such as Tasamma Abdi, Fitorari Workner. Then I was taken prisoner myself and kept locked up in the town.
Many of the prisoners had lost brothers on the battlefield, killed as they tried to tear the guns from the enemy's hands. Now they have lost their guns and their honor in the humiliation of capture.
Metteteli tutti in riga. Su, 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 avanti, avanti. Di qua, tutti in fila.
While I was a prisoner, it was a terrible situation. There was looting. All our property was stolen and burned. I was kept there as a prisoner for 2 years. Then afterwards, I began to hear about the World War. About that time, I somehow managed to escape, and I immediately wanted to start again and fight with the resistance of the patriot.
The League of Nations condemned Italy's aggression, but the sanctions imposed were half-hearted and did not include petrol or aircraft fuel for Mussolini's tanks and planes. Even the emperor began to wonder if any country would take up their cause against a European power.
Beaten in the last battle, abandoned by the League of Nations, the emperor had retreated through deserted towns and villages towards Addis Ababa. Though the Italians were closing in behind him, he stopped for 2 days to fast and pray on his knees in the monolithic church of Lalibela. Haile Selassie planned to move to the hills and fight a guerrilla campaign, but his chiefs and advisors knew their broken armies could not fight on. They persuaded the emperor to leave Ethiopia.
Should the emperor have left? Many Ethiopian patriots now say they don't believe he ever intended to stay and fight.
There he got to Addis Ababa. He called all nobles, higher officials, and others to a meeting in his palace. They all agreed in one point, and that was that they should transfer the whole court and the government to Gori, and then they would start a guerrilla campaign. But after they had all agreed about that, then he went and suddenly changed his mind. He looted all the gold from the Ethiopian treasury and left the palace by a secret gate. He took the train from a place called Akaki together with his family and nobles.
Other Ethiopians now feel that the emperor's escape was preferable to the ultimate disgrace of his capture. And after all, the Italians were closing in fast.
On May the 2nd, the imperial family left by train for Djibouti, en route for Palestine, and exile in London. The emperor was leaving a poisoned landscape, turning yellow under an invisible rain of mustard gas sprayed from aircraft. Spraying the mountainsides flanking his columns had eased Badoglio's advance. Where the gas touched flesh, blisters broke out. Barefoot warriors were very vulnerable as they marched over the poisoned land. The falling gas